Let's work on understanding the locations of ordered pairs on a coordinate plane together. Throughout each of these practice problems, we're going to go ahead and write the directions of how to plot each point, but make sure we're going from the origin each time. Then we're going to go ahead and determine the location of each of the ordered pairs, and the few different locations we can classify them as, are they going to be quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4, perhaps it's going to be in the positive x-axis or the negative x-axis, the positive y-axis, the negative y-axis, or possibly the point could be at the origin. For number 1, we have the point A located at 4, 2, and so we're going to say here is the positive 4 means we're going to move to the right 4 units, and then the 2 means we're going to move up 2 units. Okay, so basically we're going to start at the origin, we're going to move to the right 4 units, and we're going to move up 2 units. And what location are we going to be in? Well, we're going to say that's going to be located in quadrant 1. Remember, everything in quadrant 1 is going to be positive, so that hopefully makes sense. For number 2, we have point B, which is located at -6, positive 3. So that -6 really means we're going to move left 6 units. So let's go ahead and write left 6. And then that 3 really means we're going to move up 3 because it's positive. Okay. So if we were plotting this on a coordinate plane, we would move 6 units to the left from the origin, then move 3 units up, and that would bring us to a location called quadrant 2. Remember, everything in quadrant 2 always has a negative value first and then a positive value second. For number 3, we have point C, which is going to be at 7, -5. That positive 7 really means we're going to move to the right 7 units first. So we're going to go to the right 7, and then that -5 or -5 means we're going to move down 5 units after that. Okay, so we're going to go right and then down. So if we were starting at the origin, we would move right to the 7 units and then move down 5 units, something like this. That would bring us to a location called quadrant 4. All right, cool. Remember, everything in quadrant 4 has to have a positive value first for the x and then a negative value second for the y, so that checks out for number 3. For number 4, we have point D, which is going to be -3, positive 9. So that -3 really means we're going to move left 3 units first. And then after we move to the left 3, we're going to move up 9 units. Okay, so if we were plotting this from the origin, we would move just 3 units to the left like this, and then we would move 9 units up. So a lot more up and down than left and right. And that would bring us to quadrant 2. Quadrant 2. And quadrant 2, remember, everything is going to be negative for the x and then positive for the y. That means left and then up. For number 5, we have point E, which is located at 0, -5. So in terms of the first number 0, you could say left or right. It doesn't really matter for this case. So that 0 really means that we're going to move left 0 or right 0. Either one's fine. And then that -5 means we're going to move down 5 units. Okay, so basically we're not going to move left and right, and then we're just going to move down from the origin. And so if we just move down, we're going to be on the y-axis, but specifically where? So if we're just moving down from the origin, we're not going to be located in a quadrant. We're actually going to be on the y-axis, but more specifically, we're going to be located on the negative part of the y-axis. Remember, anything on the negative part of the y-axis is going to have 0 for the x value and then a negative value for the y value. Let's check out number 6. For number 6, we have point F, which is going to be -3, positive 8. The -3 really means we're going to move to the left 3 units, and then that positive 8 means we're going to move up 8 units. Okay, so again, that -3 means we're going to move to the left 3 units from the origin, and then the positive 8 means we're going to move up. That's going to bring us to quadrant 2. So I'm going to go ahead and write quadrant 2. And remember, everything in quadrant 2 has to be negative for the x and then positive for the y, and that checks out here as well. For number 7, we have point G, which is located at -4, 0. That -4 means we're going to move to the left 4 units, and that 0 means we're going to move 0 up or 0 down. So I'm just going to say up because it's less to right. You can say up 0, but you can totally say down 0 too. And so if you're plotting this on a coordinate plane, you would just move 4 units to the left and then put a dot, and you would be done because you don't have to move up or down. So if we aren't moving up or down, this is not located in a quadrant either. This would be located on the negative x-axis. Right, so it's going to definitely be on the x-axis, but since we're moving to the left, it's going to be on the negative part. So to be on the negative x-axis, we will move to the left, which is negative, and then you must move 0 units up or down for the y. For number 8, we have point H, which is located at 4, 0. So this is a positive 4. This means we're going to move to the right 4 units. Okay. After that, we're going to move up or down 0. I said up last time. I'll say down this time. I'll say down 0 units. So you know that they're both the same thing. Doesn't really matter. And so when we plot this on a coordinate plane, we would just move from the origin and move to the right 4 units and then put a dot. This is not going to be on the negative x-axis. Rather, this is going to be on the positive x-axis. Right, since we moved to the right, which is in the positive area, so we always move positive to go to the right, and then we don't move up or down. For number 9, we have the point 0, 0. Okay, so for this one, for the directions, what you're going to do is you're going to say we could move left or right 0, doesn't matter. I'll go ahead and say left. I'll say left 0, and then you could say up or down 0, doesn't matter. I'm going to say up 0. So for this one, you actually can't move anywhere, so just put a dot right at the origin, right? That would be, I don't know how to sketch it, but maybe that makes sense that we don't move left and right and we don't move up or down. And so what's the location for this one? You would just say it's located at the origin, right? The origin is always located at 0, 0, so you don't move anywhere, but that's where we start. For number 10, we have point J, which is going to be -4, -9. So that -4 means we're going to move to the left 4 units, okay, left 4. That -9 really means we're going to move down 9 units. So if we were plotting from the origin, you would just move from the origin left 4 units, and then afterwards you would move down a lot more, which is going to be 9 units. This location, if it's negative, negative, this is going to be called quadrant 3. Okay, so quadrant 3, everything is going to be -x, -y, which is what we had for this problem. For number 11, we have point K, which is at 1.5, -3. This positive 1.5, again, don't let decimals or fractions kind of bother you. All the directions are going to be the same. We just need to know their signs. So this is going to be right 1.5 units. The -3 means we're going to move down 3 units. Okay, so right and then down. We just have to go through using half a box or something when we're plotting the points instead. So we're going to go ahead and say that if we sketch this, it would look to the right, and then it's going to go down a little bit more, something like this. And so when we go ahead and say, if we go to the right and then down, that would be in quadrant 4. Okay, everything in quadrant 4, remember, is going to be positive for x and then negative for y. For number 12, we have point L, which is -2.25, 7. So that's a negative value first, so that's going to be left. So go ahead and write left 2.25 or 2.25 units, and then we can say up 7 after that. Okay, so if we were plotting this, we would go something like this, where we go to the left 2.25, and then we'd go up a lot more, which is 7. If we go to the left, then up, that should bring us to quadrant number 2. Quadrant 2. Remember, everything in quadrant 2 goes negative first, then positive second. For number 13, we have point M, which is located at 0, -7.75. So again, because the first number is 0, you can say left or right, doesn't matter, right? Because you're not moving anywhere, so left 0. And then we're going to say let's move down 7.75 or 7.75 units. So if we were plotting this, you don't move left or right, you literally just start at the origin and then move down, right? This wouldn't be located in a quadrant because it has a 0 as one of its coordinates. So this would be located on the negative, because we moved down, it'd be the negative y-axis. Remember, anytime we're on the negative y-axis, the x-coordinate has to be 0, and the second coordinate, or the y-coordinate, has to be negative. For number 14, we have n, which is 2.5, -4. That positive 2.5 means we're going to move to the right. So go ahead and write right 2.5 units, and then we're going to move down 4 because it's negative. Okay, and so if we're going to go ahead and plot this, we would start at the origin and move to the right 2.5 like this, and then we would move down 4 units, more down than right, and this is going to be located in quadrant 4. Everything in quadrant 4 is going to be positive x, then negative y, which is what we have for point N. For number 15, we have point O, which is located at -1.75, 5. So that first negative value means we're moving to the left So go ahead and write left, and that's going to be 1 3/4 units, and then it's going to be up 5 units. Okay. So if we were plotting this, we would start at the origin and move 1 3/4 units to the left, and then we would move 5 units up, something like this, and that would bring us to quadrant 2. Remember, everything in quadrant 2 has a negative x value, then a positive y value. Let's check out number 16. For number 16, we have point P, which is -0.5, 5. So that first -0.5 means we're going to move to the left, and that's going to be half a unit, right? And then the second direction is going to be up 5. So if you were plotting this from the origin, you would just move a little bit to the left, and then you would move a lot more up, just because 5 is 10 times bigger than a half, okay? Then we're going to go ahead and say if we move to the left and up, that should bring us to a location of quadrant 2. Remember, everything in quadrant 2 is negative then positive, because we move left then up. For number 17, we have point Q, which is 4.5, -3. So that first one is positive, so that means we're going to move to the right 4.5 units, or 4.5 units, and then we're going to move down 3. That down is because that 3 is negative. So if we were plotting this, we would go to the right, maybe this much, and then we're not going to go down as much because -3 has a smaller absolute value than 4.5. Okay. If we move to the right then down, this would bring us to quadrant 4. Remember, everything in quadrant 4 is going to be positive x, negative y, and that's what Q was. For number 18, we have point R, which is going to be a -5 3/4 and a -6.5. It's negative, so that means we're going to move to the left first. We're going to move left 5 3/4 units, and then we're going to move down. We'll move down here, and that's going to be 6 1/4 units. Okay, so we start at the origin. We basically move to the left a certain amount, 5 3/4, and we move down. We're going to move down just a little bit more than we move to the left, because 6.5 is bigger than 5 3/4. Anything negative will bring us to quadrant 3. Remember, everything in quadrant 3, negative. For number 19, we have point S, which is going to be at -1 3/4, 0. So the first one's negative, so that's going to be left. We're going to move left 1 3/4 units, and then you can say either up or down 0. I'm just going to say up 0. And basically what we're going to do is start at the origin and just move to the left 1 3/4 units, and then plot a point. We're not going to move up or down because of that 0. So if we start at the origin and move to the left and we don't go up or down, we can't be in a quadrant. So we must be on the x-axis, but more specifically, since we didn't move to the right, we moved to the left, that would be the negative x-axis. And that hopefully makes sense because the 1 3/4 we had was negative, so it's -0. Okay, so we didn't move up or down. Finally, for number 20, we have point T. We have 4, -2.5. That positive 4 really should tell us that we're moving to the right 4 units. And then that -2.5 means we are moving down. So we're going to say down 2.5 units. Okay, so if we start at the origin, you would move to the right 4. So let's go ahead and show that would be to the right 4, maybe something like this. And then that -2.5 means we're going to move down, but not as much. And so this brings us to quadrant 4. Remember, everything in quadrant 4 is going to have a positive value first and a negative value second, which is really just a positive x and a negative y. All right, so there you have 20 different practice problems on working on locations of points on the coordinate plane. And so hopefully those directions helped, and the sketches as well as the locations. If you found this video helpful, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And as always, keep up the great work, and I'll see you in the next one.